Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to our examination of the Christian journey. Where we began our discussion was taking a look at the secular audience and realizing they have a very justifiable case to say that Christianity has a hard time establishing relevance in our world. That as we look around at people we know, most of the folks we know, we would consider good people. And as we look at the long-term trends of the world, things seem to be getting better. Now, I'm not talking about last week or last year or what things were like when we were growing up, but think in the long term. Think 500, 1,000, 2,000 years. When we think in those terms, the long-term trend is pretty positive. If they think of it, we no longer live in our village in fear that the roaming horde is going to come and pillage our village, kill all the men, and take the women and children captive. We no longer eke out a subsistence existence, hoping that the harvest we have will be enough to keep us from starving to death through the winter. When our children are born, we no longer look at them and realize that many of them will not make it to adulthood. We no longer expect to die before we're 40. Indeed, even in our own lifetimes in the United States, we have seen not the elimination, but certainly the improvement of things like racism and bigotry. Improvements in so many ways. Our long-term trend is good. If the world is becoming a better place in this sense over the long haul, and most of the people we know are good, well, why in the world do we need Christianity? And so we decided to put Christianity to the test, so to speak, as if it were a business plan for the human business. And as such, we want to know what it identifies in our current business as good and as bad, why we're not performing as well as we could be, where we need to go, and how we get from the starting line to the finish line. And as we examined the Christian business plan, we saw that it actually began in a place very close to the secular view, that it acknowledges that there is love and good in the world, and this is a good thing. And we see all of this goodness. But at the same time, it also recognizes that there are some problems. That yes, we no longer fear the neighboring horde is going to come in and pillage our village and carry our wives and children captive, but we fear our anonymous neighbor. We have incredible advances in medicine and in science and technology and healthcare. And yet, we simultaneously have a healthcare crisis. That at least in the West, we have unprecedented prosperity. And yet at the same time, our economic choices have seen the literal resurrection of slavery in the world. Only now we call it offshore manufacturing. So we see there is this mix. And this is the problem that the Christian business plan identifies in the human business. Not that it's all evil, although some unfortunately phrase it that way, but that it's not performing as well as it could. And it identifies these two problems. One, that there is evil in the world, that we want love and joy and peace and goodwill, but the long-term and long-distance implications of our choices produce war and strife, hatred, violence, poverty and oppression. So there is evil. There is this mix of good and evil. But then, even more pertinent to most people that we know, we saw that even our good was not good enough. Yes, we are good people. We see lots of good people. But that good is not good enough. Why? Well, in all our time on earth, it has not vanquished our evil. And it's also not sustainable. Even the ones we hurt, especially the ones we hurt, we love. And it's not sustainable, we came to see, because our love and our good, even though it is love and good, is for the most part selfish. And as a result, we love because. We love because of what we receive from the person we love, because of the way they make us feel, or the way they are, or the good person they are. We're inspired to love. And the problem is, when the inspiration stops, when the love or the reinforcement stops, the love stops. And we contrasted this to the eternally sustainable, selfless love of God. And we saw there's the crux of the problem. That Our human business, with its mix of good and evil, and its inadequate good, is not fit for an eternal existence. We don't live an eternally sustainable lifestyle. But God does, for all eternity, as Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, between them, in the Godhead, they have lived joy and love and peace that is uninterrupted, because their love does not depend on what they get from the other person. Their love is dependent upon what they are. They are love. God is love. And because that love is not dependent upon reinforcement, when the reinforcement stops, the love continues. The love is eternally sustainable. So we saw this was the issue, that there is a difference. A false presupposition is that we understand what love and good is, and we do not. Because we're so used to this human love, this selfish love, that dies. They can't go 5 years without a divorce or 50 years without a major world conflict. And what we need, what the Christian business plan proposes, is to transform us from humanity to divinity. To be that selfless, sustainable, eternally sustainable love. To love because it has become what we are. Now, part of the problem is that we use the word love so loosely. No wonder we don't know what it means. I mean, when we talk about love, I love chocolate ice cream, or I love the Yankees, or the Red Sox, or the Patriots, or the Giants, or whatever team it is this year, or I love that dress, or I love this store. No, we also love our wives, we love our kids. What do we mean by love? Well, God saw it so important for us to know what love is and to understand the difference between most of the love that we live, which is not fit for eternity, and the love that He has lived for all eternity, that He did something remarkable. He came and made Himself a man. And as a man, He suffered and He died for us, to show us the difference between His love and our love. Now, for those unfamiliar with the death of Jesus Christ, I'll take just a moment to describe it a bit. That Jesus willingly, by His free choice, submitted to a Roman crucifixion. It's something unlike anything we know in our world, which prohibits cruel and unusual punishments. This punishment was intentionally cruel and was intentionally, ingeniously barbaric, so that it would frighten anyone who would dare oppose Roman might or endanger the Roman economy. It was intended to be cruel, barbaric, long, slow, suffering, torturous death. So what happens? Jesus is captured, He's betrayed. And not initially the Romans, but rather the Jewish temple guard comes and they capture Him. And they bring Him captive, but they don't, they're not ruled by the Geneva Convention. They don't treat Him kindly as a prisoner of war. No, they take Him captive and they beat the living daylights out of Him. I mean, they're not just, light slaps upside the head. Instead, these are trained professional guards. They are pummeling Him with their fists and with they're kicking Him. They are beating Him. They're giving Him a working over. People consider Him a prophet, so what do? They blindfold Him. And while He's blindfolded, they just whack into Him and say, "Who hit you if you're a prophet?" Now this is the way He started this path. When they were finished with Him, they turned Him over to the Romans. Now it's interesting, the Roman governor really doesn't want to crucify Jesus. But he sees that he's got a riot ready to break out on his hands. And so he wants to appease the crowd. So to try to appease the crowd without having to kill Jesus, the first thing he does is he has Him beaten with rods. Okay, this is not, a little kid being beaten with a paddle or something. I shouldn't even say that. That's bad enough. I mean, they took these thick rods and they just beat Him across His body. They didn't back off because they might hurt Him. They intentionally hurt Him. They intentionally split the skin open on His back. That was the beginning.